It's such a unique experience being an athlete at any level and having to figure out what's next.
So how much of your identity you think was tied into volleyball?
Oh, like 120%. I played professional in Europe for 3 years.
Yeah.
We were playing in Champions League, which is like the highest you can go in volleyball. But my coach was crazy.
I think you were going to use another adjective.
There's many other words I could have used. But your job is volleyball, and they make it well known that your job is volleyball. And if you're not producing on the court, then it's like you suck as a human being. Like, in what other world are you experiencing that?
Facts. Working hard doesn't guarantee you anything, and that's what we're told. And then when you fall flat on your face, who's there to pick you up? Mm-hmm. So how do you think volleyball has prepared you for life after sport? Because that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of You Only Die Twice. I'm your host, Warren Ward, and today in this episode, I am joined by Shanice Marcelle. Shanice Marcelle went to UBC, where she is a 5-time straight national champion. She was the BLG Female Athlete of the Year in 2013. She then went on to play in countries such as Germany and France. She has represented Canada since 2011 in both indoor and beach volleyball. In this episode, Shanice talks about the financial hardships of being a professional volleyball player, both on court and in beach volleyball. Also talk about the lack of marketing ability for Canadian and volleyball players worldwide. And of course, we talk about her exit as a professional player into coaching. She's been doing that simultaneously, playing beach volleyball since 2018. This is not one to miss. I think what I always want to start with most guests that that we have on here, especially you and your level of prominence, I'd love to understand why this topic is important to you, like athlete transition as a whole.
Yeah, I think because I struggled with it multiple times. I think because where I'm at now and the position that I'm in now, I see young athletes struggle with it, whether they're exiting from college or university or they are professionals and they have no idea what's next. I think there are not a lot of supports in place to help people kind of through those experiences. And it's such a unique experience being an athlete at any level and having to figure out what's next.
Yeah. And in your own experience, you said you struggled with it. So what were some of those struggles?
Yeah, well, I initially struggled with it in 2016. I was part of the indoor national program, and we had failed to qualify for Rio. And during that experience, I had a really bad shoulder injury, so I had to get shoulder surgery. So
like labrum?
Yeah, I had a partial tear in my labrum and 2 overlapping rotator cuff tears. So they fixed my labrum, didn't fix my rotator cuff, but through that, our national program ended up moving from Winnipeg to Vancouver. So I ended up doing all of the rehab by myself, away from my team, away from my coaches. And I had no idea kind of who I was without volleyball, and I hadn't given any thought to what the future would hold for me without sport. Exactly. That was not in my plan. That was not in the cards for me. I was like very much of the mindset that I'm taking volleyball as far as I can go and nothing else matters. So when that initially happened, I cried a lot. I was mourning what wasn't happening in my life at that moment. So it took a lot of exploration to figure out who I was as an individual. It took a lot of exploration to figure out the things that I enjoyed and liked. And
rehab sucks.
Rehab sucks.
People who haven't gone through rehab, when you're rehabbing and you're trying to get back to playing, I've done it 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah.
It is absolute shit.
Yeah.
Every single day just doing physio, and you're working twice as hard to get back to just a baseline of, like basic performance. And especially if you're playing pro, it's your career, you're losing money. You said you had to do a bunch of things. What were some of those things, specifically that you found out about yourself during that process?
Yeah, I took to writing because one, I wanted to get my thoughts out of my head.
Right.
And 2, I found it a really cathartic experience to be able to share where I was at and what I was struggling with. And through writing, I started with just journaling, And then I realized my experience is probably not singular. There are probably lots of people that are struggling with this. Why don't I turn it into a blog? So that's what I initially ended up doing was, sharing my experiences through sport, and the things that I had learned just with volleyball for young athletes who might be struggling with the same thing. And the return on it was really great. Like, I got a lot of positive feedback from young athletes.
You're Shanice Marcelle, clearly.
From young athletes, but from like parents, from coaches. And it was like, this is a way for me to stay connected to the game that I love. And this is like showing me that there's purpose beyond just playing. Completely
understand that. And this is why we started this. We want to do that on the same level. I read some of your blogs, so I got a good sense of it. I didn't know you were into writing like that, but it's hard to know that when you're an athlete because all you are known for is your sport. So how much of your identity you think was tied into volleyball?
Oh, like 120%. I didn't know who I was. I hadn't explored other interests. It took a lot of time for me to be able to do that. It took maturing for me to be able to do that. It took injury for me to be able to do that. And I'm so grateful for all of it, as much as it sucked in the moment.
And, like I always say, or I've said in the past that like the only way to really get to the level that you played at and even the level I got to play at, you have to put yourself into the sport. It's like, as a kid growing up, that's the first thing I heard, like if you want to make it in anything, you got to work really hard. Working hard is very subjective. It doesn't, you're working hard doesn't guarantee you anything. Yeah. And I think that's like the notion that we have. And that's, and that's what we're told. And then when you fall flat on your face, which every athlete does, regardless of finances or whatever, when you fall flat on your face, you're not able to make it, who's there to pick you up? And that's the personal problem I have with it. It's like, I want to put my whole into everything that I'm doing, but at the same time, I know that there's a consequence, a positive one and a negative one to that. Yeah. And that's been, your experience, that's been my experience. And I think that whole identity piece is something that future athletes, I think, have the power to change. Like, put everything you have into the sport, but also understand you can do other things simultaneously. And I don't think we did that.
No, but I also think like and I don't know if this was maybe your experience playing pro, but a professional experience in Europe, there's like nothing like that. Living in a foreign country, playing with teammates who don't necessarily speak your language, playing for coaches who are very dictatorial in their style.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, like your job is volleyball, and they make it well known that your job is volleyball. And if you're not producing on the court, then it's like you suck as a human being. Like, in what other world are you experiencing that?
Facts. Have you ever been threatened?
Oh yeah.
Like in France, I remember we were after preseason, I was killing. I was averaging like 25.
Hey.
And I know. But then 9 games into the season, they're like, if you don't score 20 points, you're fired. I got fired. I'll tell you the truth. I got absolutely fired because I didn't do it. Yeah. So it's just too much pressure. I couldn't handle that. But what other job is like that?
None.
And you're right. You do suck as a human being.
Yeah. I played professional in Europe for 3 years. So I played 2 years in Germany and 1 year in France. And my 2 years in Germany were for the same team. Yeah. We were playing in Champions League, which is like the highest you can go in volleyball, which was amazing and like such a unique volleyball experience. But my coach was crazy, for lack of a better word. I remember being...
I think you were going to use another adjective.
There's many other words I could have used. But I remember being on a bus returning from a game where I had played poorly. In fact, our whole team played poorly, and we had lost. And this man took to like making every athlete go up to the front of the bus, sitting right in front of him. And he just berated us in front of our teammates, like, you completely effing sucks that game. Like, you're a terrible volleyball player. These are the reasons why. And then it was like the next person had to go and sit and endure that. I'm like, this is abuse.
I know, this is a professional level.
Exactly. Why are we allowing these things to happen? I'm really grateful that my teammates were rock stars through that, because that was such a different experience from what I had when I played in university.
What was it like university?
I had the best coach in the world. I had
and you thrived.
And I thrived. I had a coach who cared about me as a human, who wanted to know the things that I was interested, that wanted to know a little bit more about my family, who like really and truly cared about my development off of the court. And I think because he did those things, we were able to be successful.
And at a professional level, they don't care about that. It's just result based.
No, you're just a number. You're just like, you can get fired very easily and they can hire someone else to replace you. You are very replaceable unless you're like the top producing probably 30 plus points per game, or in volleyball producing like 20 kills per game.
Right. And if you're not that, then you got to go.
Then you're chopped liver. You're like the bottom of the barrel.
you're everybody else. So obviously you love that about it at the same time. So how do you think volleyball has prepared you for life after sport? Because that's where we are now.
Yeah. I think it gifted me a lot of resilience, which like now in this stage of my life, I'm grateful for, but going through it, I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy the injuries I went through. I did not enjoy, the abuse from coaches. I did not enjoy the threats from coaches when playing overseas. But I think it gifted me this ability to face challenges and not be afraid of the outcome necessarily.
Were you able to get like endorsement deals while playing and able to be like stable financially through playing in Europe and through here? Because volleyball is a well-known sport. It's played a lot. Probably the most played sport from what I got to Google, most played sport among young women in the United States, in North America. But it's probably one of the most like least televised. Marketing dollars are not heavy behind it. So how does someone who's playing at your level and the level that you were able to maintain and sustain, like how do you financially do well? Because there isn't a lot of backing.
Yeah, I think I'd have to separate my indoor experience from my beach experience to kind of answer that question. When you are playing indoor, everything is paid for. You make a salary, you have an apartment, you get your own car. Like the only expenses you have are groceries and gas. Okay. So
much like basketball.
Playing indoor felt more like a stable career in that I was making money and saving money.
Got it.
When I switched to playing beach, you are playing in tournaments where you're either in a qualifier to get into the main tournament or you're in the main tournament. If you're in the qualifier and you lose, you don't make any prize money. You're spending all this money to fly to like Asia or Europe to play in this tournament and lose one game and you're out.
So you could play for Canada and you got to pay for that yourself.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yes. Yeah. The indoor and beach side of things within volleyball are very, very different. Indoor, everything is paid for you. Right. Beach, you're having to pay your own way to go to international tournaments to represent your country. And unless you're in the main draw of tournament, you're likely not making any money. And even if you are in the main draw of the tournament and you lose every game, you're probably making like $500 to split between you and your partner, which is nothing.
To go to Asia and come back, you get $500.
Yeah.
Man, listen. That is so. Are you and most volleyball players able to find financial freedom? Because to me, that is that's not my reason for playing, but it's one of the reasons. I mean, I saw a pathway to make a lot of money in a sport. Yeah. That way I could set my life up. I could set my family up. It's a big part of it, right? Like money is a big part of sports. I don't care what anyone says. They'll tell you otherwise. Were you able to succeed in that part?
Indoor, yes. Beach.
Well, with $500, absolutely not. Shanice, don't lie.
With prize money, no.
Or were you eating air? Like what?
But I was able to be successful in, I'm seeking out personal sponsorships. I'm putting in the work. So like I am the professional athlete. I am also my own agent.
You were an agent, okay.
I'm also my own travel agent and booking all these things. So like I gained a lot of extra skills.
Expedia, huh? That's good.
Yeah,
well done.
But beach volleyball is not for the weak because there's like significant work that you have to put in. And I think everyone only sees beach volleyball players, like if you ever watch a tournament, they see them as like, oh my gosh, they're playing professional sport in the sunshine, like how amazing. And the reality is probably 50% of beach volleyball athlete players that you're watching are broke or close to broke and are doing it because they love the game.
Starving artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. I did not know that. I would have never known that. I thought
Yeah.
they were all living good. You know?
Unless you're like winning tournaments or maybe the top 5 in tournaments, like it is bleak out there.
Yeah,
Like,
and sponsorship deals and whatnot.
sponsorship deals,
which apparently
are
you have to get your own.
and they're super difficult to find within Canada. I think if I was American, it would be a lot easier, but it's hard to find sponsorship dollars within Canada.
Why?
It's a super good question. I think maybe not necessarily all companies are willing to sponsor athletes at the bottom. Are they willing to sponsor the athletes at the top? 100%. But the ones that are trying to get there, they don't want to put their dollars towards them because what is the gain for them?
Right. Or the sport. Like, what about
Yep.
kayaking and, whether you're a javelin thrower. Like, now when I watch Olympics, like, I'm saying to myself, what's a javelin thrower or a shot putter going to do when they're done playing? Like,
Yeah, how much money have they
How-
made?
right.
Probably none. How much money have they lost? Probably a ton.
that makes absolute sense. What distinguishes Shanice Marcelle, the athlete, and Shanice Marcelle, the coach? Because now you've gone into coaching now, and you were coaching while playing beach volleyball at the same time since 2018, which is like crazy impressive.
Yeah. I think me as an athlete, if you were to ever watch me play, I was someone who was super confident in what I was doing, but also really, really calm. I think that was like the one word that a lot of teammates used to describe me and athlete or coaches as well. And that I would just, I would do my job. I'd do it really well. And that was kind of it. I wouldn't ride the highs and lows. I think me as a coach, I'm someone who like really cares about people. I really care about the connection with my athletes because I have experienced many poor coaches. I've experienced many traumatic experiences from coaches, and that's like the last thing that I want to do for young women when I'm coaching them at such a pivotal time in their lives.
What makes a good coach? What makes a bad one?
Oh, well, a bad coach is someone who is a terrible human being. They're yelling at you. Maybe they're throwing things at you. I don't know. That can happen too in Europe. What makes a good coach is someone who cares. Again, I think it comes down to that duty of care, that care for connection for the human, rather than seeing them as just a number or just a pylon in your little game.
Yeah, and a rotational person as well.
Yeah.
You're just in a couple of years and then you're out.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the lesser known challenges? I was thinking about that on the way here. Like what? Obviously, I think for like a basketball player, football player, most people know some of the difficulties that come with that. But volleyball, you don't really hear about it. So what are some of the lesser known challenges besides finances?
Well, that was the
That's
biggest
a big one.
That's the biggest one. Again, separating the two sports, I think with beach volleyball, the fact that you have to do everything for yourself. Like, even though you have this title of representing Canada and being like a Canadian athlete, you are the person that is funding your way to get there. You are paying your way to get there. You're booking your own travel. You're finding your own hotels. You're finding your own training partners when you get there. You are literally doing everything yourself without the support of your federation. Sometimes you travel without the support of a coach, so it's just you and your partner going on your own. Even in matches, you're not allowed to have a coach with you while you are playing beach volleyball. So it's just the rule of the sport. The coaches have to sit in the stands during the game, and it's just you and your partner trying to figure out the tactics of how to move forward. So it's very much an individual sport and an individualized sport, even though there are two people. Whereas like indoor, I don't really think there's a lot of challenges with indoor. There's a lot of benefits to it. And you have the support of 11 other teammates. Like, what more could go? Yeah, what more could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking there a lot could go wrong. I think indoor is exciting, but I like watching beach more. It's just two people. You got to cover a lot more space. It's an interesting sport, especially at the highest levels. Like the speed of the game, the way someone's getting the ball right at their face, and they're somehow hitting it back. I find volleyball interesting. I suck at it. Wouldn't want to play it, but it is a very interesting sport. And one of the things I found when I stopped playing was I had to find a way to like channel being competitive. So I've taken up like chess and other
chess.
Yeah,
God.
Avid chess player. But like other things to like try to remain competitive without moving my body. So how have you found a way to do that? Like how do you remain competitive now that now that you're not playing?
Yeah. I actually had a really traumatic exit from sport, I will say. It really challenged my mental health. And so I chose not to do any physical activity for pretty much a year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like I stopped.
What was your exit?
That's a long story. I'll get into it after this. But
Perfect.
I stopped working out. I stopped playing. I needed a complete separation just so that I could almost rehab my brain and my mental and emotional state to be in a better place. Now I feel much healthier. I've gotten into running, which is like,
interesting.
Yeah, super weird for me to say, but that's trying to be my next competitive avenue.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't love it.
Yeah, well, hey.
It was one of the reasons why I didn't play basketball. I did not enjoy running that much, but it's been a nice change. And I do play some competitive indoor volleyball here or there. I still haven't lost, so
yeah.
You
see, I knew it was still there. I knew it was still there.
Yeah.
So you talked about your exit. I'd love to understand, what was that like?
Yeah.
And the full story. You want the whole thing?
I think it ties into part of the reason why I've gotten into coaching and why I see it as a path forward. I had poor coaches when I played overseas in Europe. And then when I was a part of the beach national program, I had a female coach for the first time in my career, really.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing. And she was a former competitive beach volleyball athlete herself, a two-time Olympian. This was someone that I really and truly admired, really and truly looked up to, and was super excited to learn from. In April of last year, I qualified with a partner who ended up being a very last-minute partner for Senior World Championships. So This would have been my first time playing Senior World Championships in beach volleyball. And the day after our qualification, I got an email from my coach announcing that she was resigning, and I got a really non-descriptive text from my partner. And basically what happened was my coach chose to resign to play with the person that I had just qualified for World Championships with. So she completely had no regard for where I was in that situation. She did not perform a duty of care in being a coach, in my opinion. And I essentially lost out on that opportunity to go to Senior World Championships because of that decision. And the federation didn't really do anything to support me in that situation. I felt like I was very much the black sheep. And I was basically almost not forced, but the training environment was you need to keep practicing against those people. So I was you want me to keep practicing against two people who just backstabbed me and didn't give me any reason why, didn't have a conversation with me. So that was 6 months of me trying to keep playing and training because I loved the sport so much, but also battling against the this is so wrong. How is this happening? How are people allowing this to happen? This is not right. And it got to the point where I was I literally can't do this anymore. So I stopped playing.
Wow.
Yeah.
First of all, whoever them people are, if you watch this, that's wrong. Very wrong. I was going to use some other words, but
yeah,
I'll refrain. That's crazy. That's a lesser known challenge that no one would ever know. You can't do that in any other sport. That's wild.
No. And yeah, I think that's a very unique situation. It would never happen in any other sport. I don't think it would happen in this sport, but it did. And I was ultimately the one that had to pay the price. Yeah. It, like I said, it really affected my mental health to the point where I was having panic attacks. And I'm not someone who is anxious about things. I'm not someone that struggles with my mental health, but it was like facing this impossible situation, and I needed a way out. So it's difficult because some people could look at the scenario and they could be like, Shanice is a quitter. She quit when things got challenging. I think there probably is that narrative somewhere out there. I really don't view it that way. I view it as like I took care of myself in the only way that I could when no one else was willing to take care of me.
I was going to ask, I mean, do you feel like, I heard the story, and I'm sure everyone else here who heard the story, I don't look at that as quitting. I look at that as you getting, fucked over. That's what I look at that as. That has nothing to do with you. It's not a reflection of you at all. You did the absolute right thing. You were trained, you practiced, you competed, and someone went around you and undermined you. I would not categorize that as quitting at all. I hope you know that. I mean,
appreciate you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is a crazy situation, and those two individuals like ended up qualifying for Paris, which is like kudos to you for being able to do that. But it's still a situation that like haunts me, and it's been almost longer than a year since it happened. And again, like I'm the one that has to live with that, where they get their like fairy tale storybook ending. I'm like, that was my dream and it was stripped away from me.
Yeah. I was going to get to Paris, but we could talk about that now.
Sure.
I mean, your partner's at the Olympics right now.
Yeah.
Someone I've worked with before, Dan Deering, someone who's also a high level volleyball player. He's been for a long time. That's how you guys met, I'm assuming.
Yep.
You guys are now engaged, so congratulations.
Yep.
How are you going to help him with his transition? And hopefully, does he know the people that are in Paris? He could, maybe put in a little...
Oh, yeah. There's like a lot more to that story
sure.
that I'm not sharing. But basically, like his coach is their coach.
Oh, gosh.
So like
it's really intertwined.
It's super intertwined, which is why it's been extra challenging for me. But I think he is already prepared for his transition, partly because he had also a career-ending injury many years ago. So he walked away from the sport already once before.
And came back.
In 2016. And he chose to come back once he became healthy. So he is aware of what's probably going to happen. I think it'll be likely tenfold because you're an Olympian. Any multi-game sport experience is like on steroids.
Yeah.
I imagine the Olympics is like even more so.
Opening ceremony, all that.
Yeah. You're like a rock star for 2 weeks. Like it's so cool. So I'm sure there'll be like an initial come down from that, but he already is like set up for his career afterwards. He knows what he wants to do. I think it'll still be challenging, but we both are like very looking forward to our futures. We're getting married in 2 months, which is really exciting. So there's lots of good to come, even though he'll still inevitably have to go through that challenge of like, okay, this is no longer my life. I'm having to like reroute.
Right. But you'll be there to help him, which is why it's interesting. I mean, I think couples have that, and I think interviewing people who are with someone who is able to go through that at the same time will at least ease a little bit of that, because you have someone who's been there. You have someone who's also might be struggling with the same sort of thing. So it's cool that you guys have one another in place. I wonder what it will actually be like when he's in it, though, because right now he's probably on a high. And we talked about you going to Paris. That was your dream. You've done everything except for been to the Olympics. Like FIVB Games for us was like that to me was amazing.
That was amazing. I went twice.
Oh wow. Okay, I went once. I went to the one in China, and that was dope. Opening ceremony, never forget that. Still have it in my phone. I often watch the video every now and then.
There's nothing like those experiences. And even like if you don't get to the Olympics, a FIVB is essentially a mini Olympics. It is the Olympics for university student athletes. And like I said, I'm grateful that I was able to go twice. And the second one, I was flag bearer for Canada. It was a really surreal experience. Opening ceremonies, there's nothing like that in the world. It's super beautiful and something to remember forever.
100%. So not going to Paris and not being able to live out that dream. What do you, are you going to watch? Are you anxious about that? Are you nervous about that? Is it bittersweet?
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
Check. I am going to watch.
Okay.
I'm leaving for Paris next week, which I'm really excited about. Just going to watch Dan and cheer for him.
Of course.
It's super bittersweet because it was my dream. He is fully aware of that, and he's fully aware of like the challenges that this last year have presented for me. I think one of the things that I'm really inspired by are the stories of the people that don't actually get to go.
Yeah.
And you'll never really hear from those people unless they choose to share. But for me, those are the ones that are like maybe a little bit more beautiful, more inspiring than the ones that actually make it and get their fairy tale ending.
Why?
I think because there's like a greater level of resilience that those people have to go through rather than the ones that actually make it. So like you're facing a greater challenge and you're having to like do it with a level of grace where in my situation, I'm still having to show up for my partner who's done it despite, you know, being really sad about it half the time and like maybe really jealous to my own fiance. Like, I can't believe you freaking made it. Like, I feel like I'm the better volleyball player half the time.
Yeah, well, that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like lots of conflicting feelings, which is difficult to digest, but I think will make me a stronger person in the long term. I know that.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is.
Yeah. And just to, I guess I want to say cap off the whole relationship aspect. I think female athletes have a little bit more pressure to, start families and, maybe not make as much money as men do, and which is not right, but it's just the way things are.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you had to make that decision as well? Like I thought your career ended because of injury, but it's obviously it was more of a mental injury.
Yeah.
But were you also thinking about stopping because you wanted to get married and because you wanted to have a family and do all that other stuff?
Yeah, I think that all played into it as well. Like I was contemplating retiring for 1 to 2 years. I was like, I'm 34 years old. Like I'm getting up there. Not that I feel old or anything, or that I am. But I knew it was something that I can't play volleyball forever. So I was like, when is the perfect time to leave? I don't think there is a perfect time to leave. Do I want children? Yes. Do I want to move forward with my life? Yes. So there was a lot having to like navigate that decision besides just the mental. I think the mental was essentially the crutch in the end. But I still have thoughts of like, hey, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'll try and make a run for the next one. Or maybe like I just want to play again for myself. There are still a lot of those thoughts. But I also recognize like my body's not what she used to.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it. But do I still dream of playing? Like, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Do you feel like maybe just being known as an athlete is limiting?
Yes and no. It's limiting if you yourself don't see what else is out there for you. It's limiting if like people put you in a box of what you can and cannot do. I think that makes it really limiting. But I also think if people see you as an athlete, it actually leads to a lot of really incredible things. So like when I was thinking about transitioning and going through interviews and stuff, I would really downplay everything that I accomplished as an athlete, which is totally messed up.
Why?
I don't know. I think that's just like the humbleness of me, or like not recognizing the tangible skills that come from athletics. And
what do you think the most applicable skills for you are?
I literally think I can do anything. If you told me to like, I don't know, go try a different sport tomorrow and be really good at it, I really think I could do it. I think I could be CEO of a company if I wanted to.
Because of sports?
Because of sport. I developed this mentality where it's like, yeah, I am a superhero in many ways. I can take on a lot. I can come back from injury. I can come back from other challenges, and it's like no sweat off my back.
Let them know, Shanice. Yeah. Let them know. Talk your shit.
Yeah. I just think I can do a lot, and I think that all came from sport.
I agree. The level of confidence
Yeah.
of, but I think for most athletes, including myself, just thinking about as a kid growing up, like saying to myself, when I'm an adult, I'm going to dribble a ball and someone's going to pay me money to do it. I think a lot of people have that initial thought, but to actually go ahead and do it and actualize it, and that goes across any sport or any sort of thing that you wanted to do as a young person, it's very hard. It's very hard. And I agree. Having that innate ability, like me playing basketball, somehow related to me being able to talk on a microphone now, right? And even though I may not be great at it in whatever, but I feel good about doing it. You know what I mean? So I think without having that sport, without having the game, I don't think I'd be able to do that. I wouldn't have the confidence to do it. And
I
take
think
it on.
having your sport for like a long period of time. I think if I would have left sport in high school, I don't think I would have developed this.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Same. 100%. I don't think I would have done anything close to what I'm kind of doing now. I don't think I'd be able to. I wouldn't have that ability. I wouldn't have the confidence to do it.
And the drive.
That as well. Yeah. The ambition as well, to continue to see what else is out there, to try and be better. And you've had an illustrious volleyball career. I mean, you've done everything. You said you're a flag bearer. You played. You've been coaching since 2018 while playing at the same time. Are you happy? Looking back at it all, was it worth it? Are you happy about what you've done?
Yes.
I know that's a good question.
Yeah,
right?
that's a super good question. That's kind of loaded question. Am I happy with what I accomplished and what I did? 1,000%. Like,
are you happy with you?
Am I happy with me? Yes. Do I also think that there was potentially still more? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's also like a little bit in the back of my mind. Not that I have any regrets
But
about
regrets
the things
okay.
that I've done. Yeah. Regrets not bad. I wouldn't say it's okay. But I am super happy. I'm really proud, but there is always going to be a piece of me, I think, that wants more for myself in anything that I do.
100%.
Which is like both a blessing and a curse.
Yep. You can't ever really be satisfied.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Everything's about progression.
Yeah.
But I also think progression is not something that needs to be rushed.
Yeah.
You know, progression could be a small step. I try to say you got to win every single day.
Yeah.
And that could be literally doing the smallest thing better than you did the day before.
Yeah.
You know, each time I get to do something like this, I try and be a little bit better at it. You know, I try, whether it's something, the question I'm asking, the way I'm asking it, whatever the case is, try and do something a bit better. And that's how you remain competitive outside of sport, right? Mm-hmm. So taking on those new challenges, it allows you growth. And I think that's what, like, someone like yourself, you know, a supreme performer, you're looking for that. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's why I do this. And after all the injuries you sustained, you said you had a shoulder injury, you had an ACL injury as well. You know, we talked about what you learned, but how were you able to return and feel like you weren't on borrowed time? Because that's how I felt. That's why I asked. Like, I felt like I was on borrowed time. Like ACL, Achilles, 3 years later. I was like, after the second one, I'm like, I'm looking at my watch, like, okay, this is getting closer than I wanted to. So, did you feel that way as well?
I never really thought about that. I don't think I did. Shoulder surgery sucks. I don't know if anyone has had it that's listening to it. It's the worst thing. I would take an ACL surgery 10 times before I would take
10?
Yeah.
No, I don't know about 10.
Before I would ever do a shoulder surgery again. But
you don't have full range of motion after that, right?
It was just so painful, and there's nothing like it. You have to sleep in a reclining chair for a month. Like, you can't even lay down in a bed because you have to be somewhat upright.
Grandma Shanice.
Literally, I would be sleeping in a sling with like ice. It was just so awful. But I never really felt like I missed out on anything. But again, that was because I had this mindset of like, okay, I'm just going to keep going and playing until I can't.
Right.
And if I come back from this, great. If I don't, then that is also great. Like, at least I tried.
Right. And obviously, I mean, you tried to come back, and you alluded to that. But did you ever have any fear or doubt in your head? Like, obviously that led to your retirement as well.
Yeah.
So did you ever have any experiences like that?
Yeah. So 2016 shoulder surgery, was playing indoor at the time. I knew I would not be the same indoor player after my surgery. So that was why I actually switched to beach volleyball. Moved here to Toronto because that's where our national program is based out of. And then like 1 month into training, after I had done all this rehab on my shoulder, I tore my ACL.
A month after?
Well, it was like a year and a month. So it was 1 month into specific beach training after I had done the whole year of shoulder rehab. Boom, ACL is gone. So yeah, it was kind of back to back, which was both, again, a blessing and a curse. I had just done it. I knew what I needed to do essentially to rehab. I knew the timelines and all of that.
That's rough.
It was super rough. It was not easy. But
mentally, that must be draining. Must have been draining.
There were moments where it was really draining, but again, like I can do anything. That was, again, my mindset. Like, oh, this is just another step. This is just rerouting to get to where I want to go. This is probably something that was supposed to happen. And I think framing it like that and viewing it like that, rather than like, why did this happen to me? Like, why me? Why couldn't it be someone else? Framing it as like something happening to me, that rather than something that I needed to grow through, I think really helped me come back to it essentially and be in a good place to move forward.
And as you were competing, we touched on a little bit earlier about your coaching. You got into coaching around the same time.
Yeah.
And 2018, you're coaching at York. Was that something that you always wanted to do, or do you felt like because you played volleyball, it's a natural progression, as most people do, most athletes? If you play football, you go coach it. You play basketball, you go coach it. You play lacrosse, whatever, you go coach it. Did you? So when I meant earlier about it being limiting, did you think you could go outside and, maybe go run a company? Instead, you just wanted to get into coaching right away?
Yeah. Did I want to get into coaching right away? No.
So why did you?
Well, so when I graduated from university, I graduated with a kin degree. I was like, what am I going to do with this? I thought maybe I wanted to be a teacher. I realized I don't like young kids that much. No, I do like young kids, but that I didn't want to like, that I didn't want to teach in a school for like X period of time. That just didn't feel like that was the path forward for me. Did I love volleyball? Yes. Do I love elements of teaching? Yes. And coaching was actually the perfect meshing of the two things that I did love. When I initially started coaching, I was not sure if this was for me. I had no like authentic voice as a coach. I was just kind of doing what I had seen and trying to figure out a path forward. So it did take a couple of years for me to actually realize this is something I'm good at. This is something that I can give back to the community that I love. But there's also a lot of room for growth for me too. And that is something that is important for my life, being able to be in situations where I'm growing and learning constantly. And yeah, sport does that, but I think once you get into like that coach's chair, it's a totally different game. You have to look at things so much different. And being a university coach in particular, like, you're not just a coach. Sometimes you're the therapist for some athletes. You are the number one fundraiser. Like, there are so many elements that go into it that I had no idea of when I played university. I just kind of like, I didn't take my coaches for granted, but I didn't realize everything that they put in for us. Yeah,
big time. And now that you're on that side, what are some of the things that you're doing to not only help your athletes prepare for life after sport, but during it?
Yeah, so I'm in school right now. I decided to go back to school to get a graduate certificate in high performance coaching. So I am showing to my athletes with my actions that like I am still learning. I still care about my development for them, which I think is really important. I'm showing up really authentically for them. And being really open with them, in that, like, if you have something going on in your life, I want to know. And if there's a way that I can help, I want to know that too. I want to be involved. I want to support you, not only for like the 4 or 5 years that you are with me, but I want to support you after that. I care about what you're doing afterwards. I think sport gives me this connection to people that is super important to me. I'm very much introverted. I wouldn't consider myself an extrovert. I wouldn't consider myself someone who loves public speaking, which you have to do as a coach. I don't love a lot of those things, but being a coach and being involved in volleyball, it allows me to be in this place where I can show up freely as I am and people accept me freely as I am, or maybe they don't. But for the most part, I think my athletes like me. And I'm still able to grow for them.
Do you see yourself staying in it long term, or do you have other ambitions? You said you could do anything, so
I can.
what does anything look like in the future?
I think for right now, I see myself staying in this for the next 10 to 15 years. After that, who knows? But I'm really happy with where I am. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I really enjoy learning about coaching and trying to grow as a coach. I think, my dream job is to go back to UBC and be the next coach of the program. That would be like the stars align and everything works out in my life beautifully. I get to go back to the program that essentially built me.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be phenomenal. Love UBC, great campus.
Yeah.
You're from out there too, so that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, I think listening to that, I admire you for coaching. It's not something I ever wanted to do. So saying you want to dedicate your life to helping other people in the sport is amazing, especially since you had no ambition of doing so. So I guess one of my last questions is, if you weren't a coach, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh my God. I don't know. Maybe I would be a teacher. Heck, I'd probably enjoy the 4 months of summer. No, I really don't know. I think some of my other interests lie within, I loved when I played beach volleyball. I loved the art of trying to find sponsorships. I think being involved with a company that maybe aligns with who I am would be really interesting. Would it be super outside of my comfort zone and the realm of what I know? 100%. But I think, an opportunity like that, if it were to come up, I would take it.
And one of the cool things, like I said earlier, I get to research a bit, and I saw on your website you have a quote by, of course, Mr. Kobe Bryant, talking about one of the greatest things you can do as an athlete is inspire others. How do you think you've done that?
Jeez. Well, I hope I've inspired people. I think my story is inspiring. There are not very many women of color in volleyball. There are not many women of color in coaching in Canada. I think just my visibility is really inspiring for young women of color who are interested in getting involved in sport.
Was that ever a problem for you?
It was not something I paid mind to when I was growing up because I didn't know any better. It's something that I'm a lot more aware of now, and the privilege that I have now. It's also one of the reasons why I want to stay involved in it. I think it's important to me to have that visibility. But I don't know.
You talked about privilege, and I think athletes as a whole, you have an astound privilege, right? And that's part of being an athlete. Athletes, when they walk up to any restaurant or club or whatever, they want to walk in free and they want to walk in first and without any questions. And do you ever think that you want to give any of that stuff up, any of the privilege that you've had and that you've earned?
Yeah.
It's nice to be recognized for what you do.
It's nice to be recognized. It's nice to get things for free. Yeah. It's nice to again, feel like you're a rock star in some capacity. All those things are really nice. I think when you lose them, that is also probably why your transition and identity is a little bit challenged, because you're becoming just a human.
A normal morsel.
Yeah. Just a normal person again, which is challenging. But I welcome the change in my life that is about to happen. I think I'm ready for that. I'm in a place where I'm a lot more mature. So will I miss those things? Sure, but it's not going to be something that it is what it is. It's not going to hurt me at the end of the day.
You don't mind flying economy every now and then. I know.
Well, my knee might.
Yeah. Same. Okay. To wrap up, we usually play a little game.
Oh God.
It is called 4-3.
Okay.
You can answer any of the following questions or statements with one word
Okay.
or one sentence.
Okay.
You ready to play?
I don't know. Okay.
Is there like a 3-point in volleyball? There's not 3-point volleyball.
No, everything's just 1 point. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
boring.
So we'll call this one for 1. So you go ahead and finish the sentence. Volleyball is.
Ooh. Beautiful.
Describe your player journey and your coaching journey thus far in one word.
Transcendent.
You're good. This is good. Keep going. Last but not least, what's one thing every athlete should do before and during their transition?
I think explore would be, if I were to put it to one word, explore. What I mean by that is like taking the time to do other things, to be involved with maybe different people aside from like the teammates or the coaches that you're used to. Explore different opportunities and see what is out there in life for you. Yeah.
And with that, we will wrap this up. Well said. Well, I want to commend you for not only being here, taking the time. I know you say you're going to Paris next week, so we have to do this now.
Yeah.
But I think you've had an amazing career. I think you've done very, very well. Since I've known you, you've always been someone very humble, very competitive, which I love and respect. And I think you're going to do amazing things as a coach. I mean, if they're half the player you were, I think they'll be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
No
Thanks
doubt.
for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you came.
If you like this episode, I'm sure you'll like the other ones. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you stream, You Only Die Twice is available. Check us out.